Welcome everyone to How Much is an Agent Minutes Worth? All lines will be placed on mute to prevent any background noise. Thank you. We have Dwayne Benson. You can begin our webinar.
Hi, thank you, and thanks for joining everyone. Glad to be with you today. We're going to be talking about how much is an agent's minute worth, and we're going to talk about that in terms of opportunities and time that it takes to win an opportunity. My name is Dwayne Benson. I'm a Strategic Solutions Director here at Noble Systems. I've been a little over a year with Noble, and I've been over 15 years in the call center industry. Lots of different kinds of call centers that I've worked with, from thousands of agents down to not that many. So for our objectives today, we want to discuss agent downtime, what sorts of things contribute to that, what the losses are that are associated with downtime, what are some of the available best practices to deal with it, and what technologies are available that can help recoup some of these losses and improve our overall productivity. So by its very nature, a call center faces major challenges in terms of agent utilization. One of those challenges is that call centers have to staff for peak periods during the early morning and then the evening hours when most people are available to be reached. If you've ever looked at a contact center call contact graph, you see high contacts in the morning, you see the high contacts more in the evening again, but during the day, things are kind of flat. So you need to be able to keep the agents busy in that valley between the peaks by finding accounts that are still contactable during the middle of the day. Agent downtime can also have other contributing factors, such as dialer speed and effectiveness, campaign changes during the day, which can create delays of seconds or even minutes sometimes before new campaigns start running for your agents. Problems with list quality and hit rates that can generate spikes in idle time. Agents talking to a single contact longer than expected. Sometimes they get stuck on a call, affecting the predictive environment for the other agents as well. And these are just some of the challenges that you can face. So we'll talk about these as we move forward. Oftentimes people look at these issues and they simply accept them as being normal or an expected part of running their business. And to a degree, that may be true, but there are costs associated with this downtime, and those costs can be evaluated and determined, and there are solutions that can be leveraged to mitigate those costs. All right, so we're going to look at some of these things. So first we're going to look at calculating the value of downtime. In the example shown here, we assume a loss of only 2 minutes per agent each day, 2 minutes per agent. Over the course of a day, a loss that small is almost undetectable, even in the best organized and well-run call centers. It's just a very small loss. However, if you think about 2 minutes a day over a month, over 30 days, that adds up to an hour every month for each full-time employee, as shown in the chart above, each FTE. If we consider a call center with 150 FTEs, the hourly cost is $750, based on probable collection rate of $5 on the average per FTE every hour. That amounts to over $112,000 in lost opportunity every month, or $1.3 million per year, all from just 2 minutes of downtime per agent per day. So even though that loss might seem small, and it is small, there's certainly some value and ROI available in making efforts to recover it. So what can you do to overcome the challenge and effectively recover some of these losses? There are technology solutions available to help with this issue. To increase agent utilization, organizations can take a strategic approach by supporting best practices with solutions for contact targeting analytics that improve operational efficiency. Most organizations have, or they can generate at least, large amounts of data about their accounts, payments, call histories, etc. But using best practices for analytics, you can leverage this data to develop target metrics that directly affect the bottom line, such as promises to pay, sales, and dollars at risk. And you can augment and enhance analytic decisions based on past experience, along with internal modeling. In general, the right analytic solution develops custom models, and that's important, I think, as opposed to pooled models, that accurately predict the probabilities of getting an RPC during each hour of the day. Also, other analytic models, like response models, can actually calculate the probability of getting a promise or sale from each RPC contacted. By using data contained in the calling list along with call result history, the analytic solution can build models that are highly predictive, even if a given account has never been in collections before. That's an important point. All right, so let's look at some of the values that we have here and how this works. This chart that we're looking at provides a simplified model of how analytic tools are capable of improving RPCs. 5 accounts here are assigned minimum payments based on outstanding balances. For this example, each account is assumed to have the same level of delinquency. At the far left, the minimum pay column shows the amount we can fully collect or sell to each account. Based on analytics, we can determine the likelihood of an RPC that leads to either a promise to pay or sales acceptance. In the balance column, the accounts are sorted based on their individual balances. So account number 5 is first, 3 is second, and so forth. For the purposes of our example here, we're assuming that the dialer is only sorting calls by balance and is unaware of the probability of success percentages showing in the larger chart to the left. The balance column shows a total estimated return of $576.15 for all 5 accounts. We can also calculate estimated success in terms of an RPC. So for account 5216, the first account listed there, we divide $68.25 by $195 to get 0.35. This means that if the probability of success equals 1, then for every 5 calls, the probability of an RPC will be 0.35. So using this method, we can arrive at an estimated success for all 5 accounts as we go through them at 0.35 plus 0.35 plus 0.5 plus 0.5 plus 0.65. So for all 5, we arrive at 2.35, which is shown in our balance column there. Then the prioritized column, oops, a little ahead, shows the advantages of using some basic analytics. So here the 5 accounts are now ranked according to the probability of success percentages. This strategy increases the total estimated return to $727.45 and the total estimated success of an RPC to 3.15 as opposed to the 2.35 in the balance column. This level of success is pretty typical for most analytic tools, so they're going to bring something to the table for you. Then the third column, the yellow optimized column, is true optimization available with Noble Analytics technology. So this method uses analytics to calculate the best success based on a combination of account and time period of the day for all 5 accounts throughout the day. With optimization, the probability of success for one time period or one account might be reduced by 5% in order to increase the probability of success in another period or account by 20%, resulting in an overall net gain of 15%. So the availability of agent resources at any given time is also considered. We look at the available staffing. With optimization, our estimated return total has grown to $882.05. The estimated success is now 0.65 plus 0.80 plus 0.65 plus 0.70 plus 0.95. So the ratio, we come out to 3.75 on that. So we can do better than just increasing the number of contacts, which is important, but we can also increase the value of the contacts. In other words, it's not just enough to get more people on the phone, but often it's important to focus on the value of those contacts. So we can maximize agent productivity by making the most valuable calls at the right time. Optimization, it doesn't care about contacting any one account, but rather the best overall combination of calls to get the most contacts. Or you can maximize other objectives like getting the highest balances or maximize contacts on the highest risk accounts. Optimization is essentially differentiating between accounts that have a relatively flat contact probability in every hour, whether low or high, and those accounts that you really only have 1 or 2 hours in which you can reach them. So you don't waste a valuable resource calling some in a better or prime time than you can actually call at some other time of the day. So for example, think of 2 customers where one of them has a 100% chance of contact all day long. All right, but the second one only has a 20% chance of contact and only during time period 1, and then 0% for the rest of the day. That's our only shot. On the surface, you might look at time period 1, if you're looking at it just by itself, and say that customer 1 is the best call to make at that time because it's a 100% chance of contact, compared to only a 20% chance of contact on the second customer. However, in this case, again, that's the only time period where I have any chance to contact customer 2. Even though it's a relatively small chance, it's my only shot. Whereas customer 1, I can call at any other time during the day, or I have other opportunities during the day to contact them. So I can save them for later while I take my best chance with customer 2 right now. If that makes sense. It might be somewhat oversimplified, but it illustrates the point. So the best practices for operational efficiency make use of analytics for contact targeting to optimize agent utilization and increase revenues. Effective analytics software solutions can help organizations, as we're showing here, to automatically manage their campaigns more efficiently and allow for transparently and dynamically managing change in real time, so we don't look at those lag times that we typically have, as well as creating and deploying advanced and customized strategies for each segment based on a combination of call history and demographics that provide more effective results. So we need to look at those combinations. This diagram that we're looking at now illustrates the call flow that organizations typically develop in a contact center environment. The dialer account pool is divided into smaller segments, each with different phone strategies, recall strategies, and compliance rules. Then decisions are made according to these different strategies and rules, but campaigns are executed independently. What I mean by that is that the dialer can't apply 4 different phone strategies to the same campaign. But the right optimization solutions can overcome these types of limitations where the dialer may not have all of the functionality you're looking for or need. For example, locking mechanisms can be created for the 0 to 30-day accounts after 2 passes, for low balance accounts after 1 pass, and for 30 to 60-day accounts after 4 passes. In each segment, the treatment is different, so the relative penetration can be accurately measured and different segments can be targeted accordingly. Also, this targeting can be accomplished through scheduling that's predefined and pre-configured automatically, so there's no daily administrative effort required for an administrator, which is helpful. Then going from there, the optimized targeting and scheduling can be accomplished in a single campaign that gets distributed automatically to 1 or multiple dialers if you're in that environment with 1 or multiple agent populations. So with this level of automation, agent downtime is significantly reduced since an administrator doesn't have to manually switch campaigns during the day, which helps keep things flowing since there's also none of the associated idle time that usually goes along with that campaign change. So again, everything's predefined and ready to go according to the rules that you set up. And you can set up those rules according to your business rules as well as any laws that you're trying to manage around. All right. So let's look at some examples. So in this example, we can see how operational efficiency can be enhanced throughout the day with automated scheduling for each segment. For this example, we've added a VIP segment. So when agents arrive in the morning, they log into the same campaign with predefined schedules based on different segments. The 0 to 30-day segment is scheduled to begin first, followed by the others. Most segments continue to receive calls, but the 0 to 30-day segment is locked after 6:30 p.m. And the VIP accounts are locked after one pass. So we want to treat them special. We don't want to overuse them. The scheduling can be changed in real time, but it can also be predefined, so resources can be scheduled ahead of time, which helps to reduce over or understaffing. All right, so there's our early stage example. All right, so working on how to handle these environments, Noble Systems is the recognized leader in providing tightly integrated products to increase agent utilization and enhance call center performance. One of those products is CallTech, which is designed to predict right party contacts and improve the rate of promise to pay. The solution develops unique customer-driven analytic models without pooled or generic data sources. There's others out there that use generic data sources, and we don't do that. We will work off of your own data for customized models. As a result of that, organizations can optimize agent resources for enhanced collections. So how does it work? Well, you start with reduced penetration. With CallTech, we're talking about models, or some people use the term scorecards, which really means the same thing in this context, which is a complex algorithm that uses pieces of information about a customer to generate a probability of some outcome. So like a FICO score for credit rating to predict the chances of a timely repayment, but in this case, the score we're talking about is the chances of making contact with someone, whether an RPC, a WPC, or a non-contact. Call history helps with self-learning. Even non-contacts are useful, meaning that we aren't just mining data to find the time of the most recent or the greatest number of contacts. So saying that we reached him last time at 3:49 p.m., so let's try that again. We're not just repeating what we've always done, and we can determine probabilities for any time of day, even times of day for which we've never yet attempted to call the customer. Because realistically, you can't try every time of day to see when someone's going to be available, so those models are helpful in that regard. Importantly, there's also a difference between who needs a call and who's open to that call. As we know, a lot of people don't want to answer their phones, especially certain times of day. Businesses create lists of customers or leads, depending on their environment, that they feel they need to call, and they send them to the dialer each day. To maximize the benefit our solutions provide to our users, we need a way to identify people in those lists who will actually answer the phone. In the current economic climate, there are more people than ever who can't afford to pay their bills, and those people see no point in taking another call from a collector or a salesperson. And since almost everyone has caller ID, it's easier than ever to avoid any unwanted calls. You just look at it and say, hey, I'm not taking that one. So more and more people are giving up their landlines as well and relying solely on cell phones. As of mid-2009, there was a report that showed a quarter of all U.S. households and a third of all households below the poverty line only had cell phones. And that's been a few years back now, so you can imagine the trend has gone quite a ways. Outside North America, that generally leads to higher contact rates, as people are easier to reach when they're available at a single number throughout the day. But in North America, we have legislation, regulation, and the courts that are always making it harder to use cell phone numbers in outbound calling. Just as we saw recently this summer with new TCPA ruling, So it's important to have a solution that takes all these elements into consideration to help you continue to be productive in a changing environment. And it will continue to change. With OnCue, this is another of the products that helps with managing your campaigns. You can automate outbound calling campaigns while adding power and flexibility to your existing dialing systems. So it will sit on top of existing dialing systems and be able to manage them above at a point where it feeds them the records they need to dial. Administrative time can be refocused to develop new strategies. Organizations can also leverage multi-skilled agents with a single campaign while managing recall, phone, and compliance strategies on an individual basis. OnCue is our real-time campaign management tool that allows you to automate management of campaigns across multiple dialers if you have multiple dialers or a single dialer. It sits on top of third-party dialers. It doesn't work just with Noble dialers. So if you're working with an Avaya or a Cisco, you can work in those environments with it. It sits on top and drastically improves your ability to manage the records going to the dialers so that you can define a much more comprehensive strategy than you could with only the dialer's native options when you're talking about dialers like Cisco and Avaya especially. But it can really bring improvements to any dialer. Also, dialers across multiple call centers can be virtually consolidated into one management process. So instead of having to manage them separately, you can put them all under one strategy, which will improve your overall strategy for increased efficiency, productivity, including legal compliance. If you can manage that from one location, that helps as well as enforcing your own internal policies. OnCue delivers records. The way it works, it delivers records to the designated dialers in small batches. So once you've defined your dialers, whether that's one or whether that's many, you set up your strategies and it will pulse out those records to the dialers in what we call just-in-time delivery of records. So it allows real-time strategy changes. So if you do change your strategies, those changes are affected right away, as well as any scheduled changes you might have defined already. They take effect dynamically without any interruption to your calling efforts and productivity. Rules or profiles can be defined for your list, which can then be sent out to an available dialer. Queues are associated with a specific dialer, but the relationship there can be many-to-many, mapping from what we call CSLs to queues, which is our contact list to queues, and which adds flexibility to share work across the teams or blend work in a single campaign at a precise defined ratio, whatever you set that ratio to be. So one practical example is that you could use it to filter, especially since we're talking about more and more about wireless numbers these days, you can use it to filter non-consent mobile phone numbers to a TTPA campaign to better manage your compliance efforts. All right. So if you'd like to read more about optimizing your dialing efforts, please take a look at our white paper about the Noble IQ solutions, which you can download from the link shown here. Also, I think we have a few questions that were passed along. So questions that, and I'll take a couple of these now and talk about them. So as far as how much in money the not ready status means or impacts the company's revenue, as well as lateness and early. So, and then there's another one that kind of goes along with that, I think. What are the best practices for deriving the value of a call? And in this case, now everybody's going to be a little bit different in deriving the value of a call because everybody's operations are different, their product lines are different, and so on. But all time lost, whatever time we're talking about for agent downtime, can be calculated against the value of your average call center performance. So when you know what your average call center performance, like we showed some examples here, then you would calculate, for example, if you know you collect $5 per agent per hour, whatever that is, then you can break that down into your lost time. So in this case, we're talking about 2 minutes lost per hour, or I'm sorry, 2 minutes lost per day, which again, a small loss, but with big opportunities to recapture it. you would look at what do you typically produce in a day or in an hour, and then compare lost time against that. Because, and again, it's going to be different for everybody, depending on what kind of products and opportunities you're working with. So whether that's in opportunities per minute or actual calls, how many calls per success it takes to get a success, and then once you know that ratio, you can calculate the cost of your lost time or the value of a call. Someone asked predictive or power dialing and which to use. And again, I think that depends a little bit on your environment. I think typically we see that if you're in a blended environment where you've got agents that are servicing both inbound and outbound calls, predictive is going to be better, generally speaking, because it's going to take into account those inbound calls, and it's going to allow you to service those and give you those gaps for inbound calls. It's going to give you the right amount of outbound calls to be able to work on when you're not getting the inbound calls. Typically, the inbound calls are going to be the priority, and that's because if someone wants to talk to us, we definitely want to talk to them if they're calling in. So we give the priority to the inbound, and then otherwise we're working on the algorithm for how many outbound calls we want to make when we're not getting those inbound calls. So predictive is typically better for a blended environment. If you're doing straight outbound, power dialing might be better, where you can tweak your ratio without concern for inbound call flow. Then you might be able to get very precise on the power dialer on the outbound in that case. But again, if you're blended, you're probably going to be better off with using that algorithm. All right. I think that's it for now. I appreciate your time. I hope this was of value to you, and we look forward to talking to you more in the future. Thank you.